This interview is in support of Witham Radio. Please consider donating to the cause. Link in description. Hello and welcome to the Cyberden, right here on Witham Radio. At least that's what I'm hoping to be saying if we can get this fundraiser for Witham Radio completely funded. So folks, please check that out. But of course, I know why you're here. You're here for the interview. Well, we have another guest, a returning guest from the old Cyberden days. Please welcome professional actor, improvisational acting coach, and voiceover artist Gary Schwartz, best known as the voice of the heavy weapons guy and Demoman from Team Fortress 2. Thanks for coming, mate.
Glad to be here, Jake.
Now, Gary, let's of course go right back to the beginning once again with the usual bread and butter question. What inspired you to become an actor?
What inspired me to become an actor? Well, like I said, many, many years ago, at the dawn of the television age, that's how long ago, I am a baby boomer. And I grew up watching television. The very first broadcasts starting in the 50s. And I was fascinated by what I saw on TV and always just admired those people on the television. And I thought, yeah, I secretly always wanted to be on TV. So as a child of the television generation, I had that in the back of my mind. And then as I found out that I was a good performer and could make people laugh as a sort of way to make it through school, I found myself performing for my friends and my students and studying comedy albums and repeating comedy monologues from records that I had heard in my art class, things like that. And then when I was 13, I got a professional job as a member of a mime troupe that would follow Pete Seeger and a bunch of folk singers up and down the Hudson River in New York, cleaning up the pollution on the Hudson in the 60s, and got my first taste of what it's like to get applause from a large crowd, and I was hooked after that.
I always love these kind of humble beginning kind of stories, and just love the thought of you as a young lad going down those streets, just painted up, black and white, all of that gear as well.
Yeah, we painted ourselves in white makeup and did the whole. This was before. This was when mime was still considered an art form and not an annoying busker on the street asking for money. So back in those days, in the '60s, Marcel Marceau was a brilliant purveyor of the art, and I studied the great comedy clowns on television, Dick Van Dyke, Jackie Gleason, Red Skelton, and put that to work in my mime work, and was part of this troupe called the Now Teen Mime Troupe, and we traveled up and down the Hudson River for a summer, performing for the crowds that would be massing to watch the big folk festivals with Arlo Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Don McLean, and these are the great folk singers of the '60s. And again, historical note: the folk music movement, protest songs, and all of that stuff was very big in the early '60s, and so that was the music of the day.
A note to anyone watching or checking this interview out, if any of you have a time machine you could lend me, please do. I would love to go back and check this out for myself. But anyway. So, who would you say are some of your maybe favorite actors or actresses?
I was completely fascinated with like Dick Van Dyke, who has just turned 100. And he was a brilliant comedian, character actor, and physical comic. I copied a lot of what he did, what I saw off the television, along with Red Skelton, another great comedian, and Jackie Gleason. They both did, they had variety shows on early television, and I just studied them scrupulously. And in my house, I had a big picture mirror. So I would practice by myself with no one looking to see that I could match what I was watching on TV. It was really just like that. And then I found out that it paid off because I could entertain people, and I just ate it up. I got the bug, and that's what I wanted to do. Through high school, I was in drama club and all of that stuff, but never really considered that it would be a career. That was sort of accidental.
How is it that you actually broke into the field of acting? Was it a difficult hurdle to overcome, or was it just one of those things where the stars seem to have aligned and one opportunity opened after another?
Well, it's interesting. After a few years of college, I found myself without any funds and moved back to my hometown. And I got a job tending bar. I was a bartender and thought, well, okay, this is a career. I was going to maybe open up a bar and a restaurant, and that was because that made more sense than trying to be a performer. And I grew up in a small town, Schenectady, New York. But I always was performing even behind my bar. And one one day, I don't know, 3 or 4 years into being a bartender, actually I was a bartender for 7 years. Um, I had a terrible accident after drinking too much at my own bar. Realized this is not the life for me, and I knew that no way I could make a career out of doing pantomime. So I contacted a mime, an Israeli mime in Boulder, Colorado. This is the year 1973 or 4. And we wrote letters back and forth, and he had a kibbutz in Boulder, Colorado, where he taught pantomime and studied the Jewish mystical text, the Kabbalah. And I thought, okay, I could be kind of like a monk on a mountaintop studying mime and learning about Jewish mystical text. So I drove out there. And when I got out there, somebody had offered him a real job touring Europe as his one-man show. So he closed the kibbutz and the school, and I was kind of stranded in the middle of the country. And so I said, well, what do I do now? I had a sister, an older sister who lived in Los Angeles. And I thought, okay, I'll drive out there and stay on her couch and get a bartending job and start over. And that's exactly what I did. But because Los Angeles was not Schenectady, New York, there were performing opportunities, and I found that I could perform on street corners and in cafes. And I met a bunch of other performers who were also climbing that show business ladder. And one thing led to another through connections, and I met my comedy team partner, Caleb Chung, and we became a comedy team. And we would perform at places like the Comedy Store and the Improvisation. And I was bored by that time because I had been a mime since I was 13, and I now was 26 years old. And I was said, this is really boring. Let's take the makeup off and talk to the audience and try to just be straight comedians. Well, my partner didn't like that. He liked the white face makeup, and I convinced him to do mime without the white makeup, which was a big step in the right direction. And uh, we did a combination of stand-up comedy and mime, the two of us, and started getting some work and started getting noticed and was able to get an agent and commercials. And usually the work for mimes back then were to animate costumes, gorillas, and I was a suit of armor that tried to chop Wonder Woman's arm off in the old Wonder Woman series. And you know, that was sort of my intro into the show business career. And but I realized that mimes are basically terrible actors, so I decided to start taking acting classes. And at the same time, I was also very interested in improvisation. And I found myself in an improv workshop studying with Viola Spolin, the woman who invented the American version of improvisation, the founder, she's considered the grandmother of improvisation, the mother of improv. And she and I became dear friends, and I became her protege. So that's between her training and studying acting and the physical work that I had already done for myself, I was a pretty well-rounded actor. Got a job using my mime skills, believe it or not, in a film called Quest for Fire, where they originally thought that, well, this is a movie without any dialogue, so mimes are probably the best bet. But then they soon found out that most mimes are terrible actors. But by that time, I wasn't such a terrible actor, and I was the only mime cast in the movie. But it was my that was my sort of break into films, and after that, I thought, oh, now I'm set. But I did slowly realized there's there's not that many caveman movies being made, and they didn't I didn't really get cast a lot in other movies. So I decided to make a voice tape and get a voice agent. And that's what I did.
How has working in these fields kind of changed over time, especially with the improvement in technology? Of course, you mentioned about voice tapes and, well before the times of MP3s, etc. Like,
Oh my
would you say
goodness.
would you say it was harder back then? Was it maybe just a different kind of work?
My first audition tape was on reel-to-reel tape. And then soon, right after, cassette tapes became popular. That's how long ago it was when this is before cell phones. I mean, the great leap in technology during my career was I got a pager. So I'm really dating myself, but that's the truth. And yeah, the but I've watched the industry change from tape to digital, and voice work doesn't change. You're still recording yourself on a microphone, and you're producing characters and all of that. It's just the medium that they recorded on changed, and the technology for recording changed, but that was easy enough to keep up with. What's worrisome right now is that AI is starting to take over acting jobs for because it can so easily mimic any human voice. So this we're in a new dawn of what's going to happen next. Nobody really knows. My guess is that AI may be technically proficient, but it's going to take a long time for AI to develop a sense of humor.
As a fellow voice actor right here myself, I agree. I think AI still lacks what I call, appropriately enough, the human touch. It lacks that kind of spontaneity, that kind of ability to fluctuate more, to kind of think on its own accord, basically.
Yeah, one thing that humans have that AI has yet to develop, and who knows if it will, is intuition.
100% agree with you there. Now, speaking of course, getting back on board with your career, so any on-screen roles that have stood out to you over the years, or maybe any on-stage roles, or anything of the sort like that have really stuck out to you, good or bad? Anything that you would consider like memorable?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Gosh, well, Quest for Fire, of course, was a defining moment for me. It's probably one of the most memorable moments in the movie. I play an idiot savant caveman, the only bald-headed caveman in the tribe, and I'm kept away in a little cave because I have the ability to nurture the fire, which we considered like a god. And so they just fed me scraps, and I was the scrawniest caveman, but I could keep the fire alive. And then when the fire goes out after an attack of a more primitive tribe, they go on this long quest for fire, and then they come back with fire gotten from a more advanced tribe that knows how to make it. And they hand the fire cage to me, and I promptly fall in the water and put out the fire. And that's the big, oh my God, what a schmuck moment, you know? But that's the moment that people remember. So I tell them, you know the guy who dropped the fire in Quest for Fire? That's me. So that was a pretty outstanding moment. But then I got to work on an early cable television show with my partner Caleb Chung, on the very first year that the Disney Channel was born on cable television, 1980, and it was called You and Me Kid. And it was a children's show, and we got to do little sketches and skits, interacting with the camera as though the TV audience was the person we're talking to. And we did 120 of those, and so that was really good training. And then shortly after that, I was cast in a pretty uh, significant role in another television show called Zoobly Zoo, and where I played a large fox who runs a theater in this little village of Zoobly Zoo. And I got the job because that I could do a great imitation of a wonderful comic actor named Ed Wynn. So, I talked like this and everything, and I was supposed to be this very impressive, egotistical, overbearing actor, but yet lovable. And so I thought the only voice that could do all of those things was the voice of Ed Wynn. And sure enough, I did 65 full musical half hours of that show, and that show endured for about 10 years and then is still considered quite a memorable show for people of a certain age. So that was a great experience. It was very intense. We produced 65 fully musical half-hour shows in the space of 15 weeks. And our leader was a brilliant musical actor, Ben Vereen. He played the mayor of our village.
There's another role that I ended up kind of spotting online when I was browsing Facebook. Then I spotted you appearing in this, I believe it was a Star Trek related documentary, and I discovered that you've had a bit of experience, a lot of experience actually, dubbing in Klingon. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, right after Zoobly Zoo, again, those roles don't come along often. I was kind of out of work, but I was still going out on a lot of voice auditions as well as regular auditions. And my agent sent me over to a woman who ran what was called a loop group. And a loop group is a group of improvising actors that are assembled to provide all of the background vocals for every TV and movie project you can think of. Anytime there's a crowd scene, they don't ask the extras to record in real time because they're busy recording the main dialogue for the actors. And they say, don't worry, just act like you're talking to the extras. And later on, when we cut the movie together the way we want it, we'll hire a bunch of actors to fill in your voices. And I was in that group. It's called ADR, Additional Dialogue Replacement. And I stumbled into a loop group, probably the biggest loop group in Los Angeles at the time, and found that a lot of my improvising friends were already involved in that group. And I kind of said, hey, guys, why didn't you tell me about this? And they kind of said, it's kind of not a secret, but it's a niche job and it's very cool. Well, anyway, I found that I could do it, and the woman who ran the loop group said, "Yeah, you have a good background style voice, and you can do a lot of different accents and various things, and you're quick on your feet." So I became a part of that, a core part of that loop group, and was over the next 16 years, I looped and replaced dialogue on over 600 movies and television shows. And I remember doing a show called Max Headroom. This is in the days when I first got my first computer with two floppy drives. And I was reading the manual and learning about serial buses and, you know, bits and bytes and things like that, you know. And Max Headroom was a science fiction show, and it needed a lot of that, what was referred to as technobabble in the background, all of these technical people at the studios creating this AI character, Max Headroom. Gosh, way ahead of its time now that I think about it. But my boss said, "Hey, you know, you're pretty good with that technical stuff." And I said, "Well, thanks." And she says, "Well, I'm going to put you on a new show that we just got the contract for, Star Trek, The Next Generation." So I started looping background voices on Star Trek, and that turned into a 7-year job. And of course, the spin-offs from Star Trek were Voyager, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise. And I got a chance to work on a good portion of all of those shows for the next, gosh, 14 years. So Star Trek was cool, but you had to know a lot. You had to know you had to know the ship, you had to know the various technology and terms and Star Trek terminology for engineering, warp drive formula, um, navigation if you're on the bridge, medical terminology if you're in sick bay, and if you had an interesting voice, you got to do a lot of aliens. So I did a lot of Klingon, and we had a Klingon dictionary to work from, and uh, you know, Ferengi and all of that stuff. So it was a cool, cool job. So I had a blast. It was so much fun because I was such a fan of the show in the first place.
Do you perhaps still remember any of those phrases in Klingon, or all the terminology of the Star Trek series, or maybe most of that has kind of like gone over
Well,
time
I'd have to
as
get my notebook out, but yeah, you know, like toch, voila, kaplach. And kaplach means I am satisfied, and you know, oh gosh, there was one phrase in the Klingon dictionary at the back of the book that everybody laughed at because the author of the Klingon dictionary uh, wrote the phrase in Klingon, "Would you like to read my screenplay?" So,
oddly specific.
yeah, well, you know, everybody's looking for a job, you know, even the guy who wrote the Klingon dictionary, who, who, who was the vocal guy for, creating the Klingon language. It's a big hustle out in Hollywood, and it was fun. I made a lot of good friends. I worked with a lot of big time directors. I worked with Tim Burton and Robert Redford and Barbra Streisand on films. Kenneth Branagh. We did a lot of films. I worked on Batman Returns and the Star Trek movies. I worked on The Nightmare Before Christmas with Tim Burton. So it was a great job. It kept me steadily employed for about 16 years.
How is it that you actually became an improvisational acting coach yourself, and what did you have to kind of go through to don such a role in your career?
Well, all through, you know, early on, I discovered improv, and I was in Viola Spolin's class trying to learn how to be an actor because I literally had no formal acting training. I was a mime and a clown, and that's all external indicating kind of stuff. It wasn't very internal. And so I took method acting classes with a man named Jeff Corey, and I took improvisational for the theater with Viola Spolin, and I was awful in her class. I was just terrible for the first couple of years, but I persisted, and by some trick of fate, Viola Spolin and I became good friends. She was much older than I was. She was in her 60s when I first met her, and but she was my mentor, and I just was completely taken with improv. And I had studied it. I was in her workshop for about 8 or 10 years. All the while, I was doing all of this other work. And slowly, I credit a lot of my training with her and my insight into theater and acting uh, as and I was absorbing her philosophy on top of all of that, which is an amazing philosophy, non-authoritarian, non-intellectual understanding of how to be an actor and how to work in ensemble and avoid the traps of ego and all of this stuff. It's a brilliant and vast philosophy. It goes way beyond acting even, but it helped me out immeasurably. And I always was a teacher. I was teaching pantomime at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts to make extra money, and whatever I learned, I taught. And I wanted to teach improv, but Viola Spolin was adamant that she was not allow me to teach. She said too many people have ripped her off and had studied with her for 3 months, got her book, and declared themselves an improv teacher. So she said, no to me for many years. But I kept after her, and about 8 years in, she said, "All right, you can teach mimes and children." And she told me I could teach mimes because that's what I was, a mime, so I was helping them out. And she said, and children because they will teach you how to be a better teacher. And sure enough, that experience, along with her mentorship, uh, sparked my true love of acting, teaching acting and teaching improvisation, which I still do to this very day. I still offer classes. And I find that it's much more endlessly creative and fascinating than just acting, truthfully.
Now let's finally delve into I'm sure the questions that many people are wanting to hear all about, of course, Valve Software's very famous and beloved war-themed hat simulator, Team Fortress 2. So, please, tell us about the audition process for Team Fortress 2. How did the roles of the Demoman and Heavy Weapons Guy end up on your lap?
Well, what had happened was I kind of, after looping for so many years, it was sort of the golden handcuff. I had reached all of the goals that I had set for myself in Hollywood. I had been in a movie, I had been in some television series. I was a steadily employed working actor, which I thought was, the ultimate goal. And after about 14 years of steady employment, I was kind of going, well, is this all there is to it? So I decided that, you know what, I really love teaching more. I'm more passionate now about teaching than acting. So, and I said, if I'm going to be teaching improvisation, I want to do it in a beautiful spot. And so I moved away from Los Angeles to just outside of Seattle. And I wasn't done with acting. And I certainly, while I had moved here, I was still flying down to LA to continue voice work because it was so lucrative. And that all kind of stopped after 9/11 when you couldn't just hop on a plane and be in Los Angeles in 3 hours to do a job and then fly home. So I started getting work up here in Seattle. I got an agent. And although the market is not as big as Los Angeles, there is acting work up here. And because it's a technical hub, a lot of video games companies had their headquarters here. And I was doing voiceover work for a lot of different video games from the early 2000s. I've done a lot of different video games, watched the video game industry evolve. And then, of course, I was getting my auditions now by email, and my agent emailed me a couple of pictures from these characters, a couple of descriptions, uh, and said, this is a mercenary band. Pick two or three that you think you could do and record your best go at them. So I looked at the descriptions and I said, well, a heavy weapons guy is a good, he's from the indeterminately from Russia or the Balkans or somewhere in that part of the world. And so I said, okay, I can do Russian. And then I saw a picture of the guy and I said, okay, he's going to have a big throaty voice. And then it said, Demoman, who is a black, one-eyed Scottish bomber. And back in the 90s, I had done a character called Colonel Il Guam on a video game called The Jungle Book. And I spoke with a Scottish accent in that. And I thought, well, I've got Scottish. And I just made him a little more angry and twitchier and sent those auditions in. And lo and behold, I got chosen to do them. I had no idea. I just thought this was literally just another game and a one off or a two off or however many uh, sessions it would take to do the game. I had no idea because I was not a gamer that this game had literally taken off. I mean, I had done other Valve games. I was in Left 4 Dead 2. I played the helicopter pilot. In Dota 2, I played four different characters. But it was years before I discovered that these are beloved characters and known the world over. I literally, nobody told me. Fun to find out.
Do you have a rough idea of when exactly you discovered, hang on a minute, people love this game and they love me?
Yeah, yeah, it was probably about 2014, something like that. I was hired by Valve to do an autograph signing for Dota 2 when they held a competition here in Seattle. I was blown away by the cosplay and the production and the amount of people who knew the game. I was I ran across a BBC news crew that was filming something at the Dota competition, and very straight-laced British reporter, comes up to me and he says, "Well, yes, we do all of the digital remotes from all of the places, and it's a particular thing." And he goes, "And who might you be?" And I said, "Well, I do a couple of voices in Dota 2." He goes, "Oh?" I said, "Yes, I play Lich." And he goes, "Lich? Oh my God, I've done a documentary on you." So that was my first inkling that there's a fan base out there that, yeah, I was not aware of. After that, when I would do a heavy weapons guy just in a bar, people would go crazy when they would say, "You sound just like heavy weapons guy," and I say, "I am heavy weapons guy," and it started like that.
Would you say there were any favorite lines or any favorite moments in all those years of recording lines for the heavy and demo?
Oh my God, it was a blast recording the characters. First of all, my whole goal in the booth was to see if I could crack up the guys behind the glass that were recording and directing. So after every take, I would improvise a little button or say a little something, or sometimes I do the lines as Bravo Fox or Vladimir Putin, and just it was a happy. I figure my goal at that point was, if you can make the guys behind the booth laugh, they're going to want to work with you again, and turned out that that was the case. So. Sometimes I'd go, Christ the more, you tiny baby men, and yeah, just anything to crack them up. But once I was out in the world, it was astonishing to me the amount of people who knew the character, and it was a thrill for me to know that I was the guy. It really was not wasted on me. I did not take it for granted. I was very grateful. But it's really just a lucky stroke. Out of all of the different games I've done over the years, this one happens to be a phenomenon. It's very much like like the fans that resurrected Star Trek when Star Trek was canceled in its first season. The fans brought the show back. And the fans, even though Team Fortress 2 is no longer produced, the fans and the fan community keeps this franchise alive. And I'm having a blast with my other fellow actors interacting with the fans at the various Comic Cons we go to and wherever I can. Yeah, it's been great.
Speaking, of course, about just the sheer passion and love of the Team Fortress 2 fan base, there was a very specific hashtag a handful of years ago that started to make the rounds on the internet, and that was hashtag SaveTF2. So when was it that you started hearing about this fan movement to save this amazing game?
Well, I've been contacted by a fellow named Shork, who's, I guess, kind of a TF2 community influencer. He's from Denmark, and I think he's very involved with keeping the game alive and relevant. But I think a lot of the Save TF2 were just the cosplayers and the fan base. But yeah, I kind of became aware of it a little before COVID, that it was a movement. And then, of course, during COVID, the world kind of changed, and everybody, I spent a lot more time in front of the computer and a lot more time interacting with people who were also, fans of the game. So that's kind of how I found out. And we've done a lot of work with Shork, who's been doing videos. He did a video profile of all of the different voice actors online, called, Meet the Real Heavy. I did a few years back. And he's done Meet the Real Sniper, which is a shot-by-shot recreation of the Meet the Heavy and Meet the Sniper, using the real voice actor as the actor. And so, as a matter of fact, he's got another one coming up that he's just funded, as a matter of fact, called Meet the Medic. And I'm going to be involved in that one too because I'm on the operating table.
Yes, I've been seeing progress on the still ongoing fundraiser for that. Very exciting to think of.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that you've been, so far with all of the things you've done with Shork, like playing the game and doing the recreations, etc.? I'm guessing that you had a lot of fun working with him?
Absolutely. Shork is a terrific guy, and he's flown out here to Seattle a few times with a film crew. He's gotten lots of footage. He wasn't involved in the search for the Sandvich. That just kind of came after we all convened and met each other at a Comic Con here in Seattle. I finally got to meet Robin Atkin Downs from LA, and we all kind of hit it off. And literally, we had the same kind of chemistry that I think the Mercs have on the game. We gel as an acting troupe. There's no ego. There's a lot of fun, and we enjoy being around each other. So that's a big plus. Which we're hoping to go visit more cons and meet more fans as a group. I know everybody has their favorite characters, but I think we're fun as a group. We're a fun group.
Speaking, of course, about the search for Sandvich, so how is it that these little bite-sized episodes come to be? Do you all kind of get together, just throw some ideas, and just record on the fly, or is there something else to it?
We all decided there was a sandwich shop at the Hyatt Hotel where the Comic Con was, where it was called PAX West. And we went in to ask for a sandwich, and we just, as ourselves, but using our character voices. And just for fun, Robin Downs just recorded it on his iPhone. And the first one was, and believe it or not, the sandwich shop had no sandwiches. They had other food, but the sandwich shop was without sandwiches. So we just improvised a little, what the hell is going on here? Robin put that up online and it went viral. So that gave Robin the idea of, hey, well, we should just keep looking for the sandwich. So John Patrick Lowry plays the sniper. When Robin went back to L.A., we cooked up another search for the sandwich, and we shot it and put that online. And again, it hit pretty big. So we thought, well, let's just keep inventing search for the sandwich videos. And it turned out that just through doing that and through kicking around ideas, a plot developed. So each little episode now is kind of unfolding the little plot of Marasmus and the Battle of the Breads and Crust, which was John Lowry's invention, our nemesis Crust. So that's how it all just kind of happened, and it gives us an excuse to get together and put a little phone made movie on the internet occasionally, and that's how the Sandvich saga came about.
There was also a bit of a competition that you and the Search for Sandvich crew put out a little bit of a while ago as well, about getting fans to submit their own scripts for a future episode. Has anything come of that?
That is in the can, almost completed. But I don't know if you realize that over a year ago, John Lowry had a sudden heart attack. This was right after we had shot those that winning plot, the footage. John was the director, and since then he has yet to assemble that piece of film. But it's out there, so there is one more. We did pick a winner, and although I've tried to contact her, I've never heard back from her after she submitted the script that were used. But there is one more that's going to be released at some point when John gets around to it.
Well, fingers crossed on that, of course. John, if you're listening anywhere, safe recovery to you, crossing fingers for you especially.
Yeah, he needs to get together and get one shot with Mysterious Woman. And so that's a character we invented, and she's sort of our liaison between Crust and the Mercs.
So again, let's cross the fingers and hope that this does come into fruition. I would love to see the grand kind of finale. I actually did submit my own script to the competition myself. I got a slight hint from Dennis Bateman, of course, voice of Spy and Pyro, about script lengths. And I thought, okay, I'll apply this knowledge, but if it didn't make the cut,
Yeah,
intended. I'm not
yeah.
fussed.
It was fun getting all of those scripts and seeing that the fans are still interested in this thing. It's wild. It's been a lot of fun. And of course, we did we wrote the Sandwich Blues and recorded that at a little jazz club here in my little hometown.
Yeah, speaking of the Sandvich Blues, again, where did that idea come from as well? Was it just like a spur of the moment idea, or how did it come about?
Well, I go walking a couple times a week with a friend of mine, Danny, Danny Kolke, who's a jazz musician who runs a jazz club here in the little town of North Bend, Washington, called Boxley's. And we were just batting around the idea that, I'm not very musical. And he goes, "Well, you could certainly do a blues number. That you don't need to be musical. It's just da 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 ba da ba." So I thought, yeah, I could probably do that. So I suggested that to John, who's a musician, and we all came up with some lyrics. And John rewrote the lyrics and arranged it. And we said, all right, let's all get dressed up. And when Robin was here shooting some, we were here for another Comic Con, and we came out to Boxley's and recorded it. And again, we had no idea that within a few weeks, it had hit over 1 million views.
Speaking of which, about the Sandvich Blues, funnily enough, I did actually end up buying that digitally and playing it on the radio back in the days of Siren Radio. I gave it some airtime. I actually
Oh, that's
played it on the
wonderful.
airwaves.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I played it also on it was the final episode, like, since back then I did the shows live and I had a friend from Australia over the computer and a friend with me in the studio. And last episode I thought, right, I am absolutely playing Sandwich Blues. There's nothing and no one that will stop me. We're putting this on the airwaves once again, and we did. And we thought, it
That's
was a
great. We
great way
also
of...
did the ABBA takeoff, Sandwich.
Now that is something I wish I heard now. I've got to Google that. I've got to Google that right after this interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question has come to mind, and a bit of a fun, peculiar one. Over the years, the fans have really kind of they really kind of get quite a few crazy ideas and kind of theories and whatnot about the cast of Team Fortress 2, of course. And of course, some of them end up coming up with some interesting ideas about, like, ooh, what about the relationship between the heavy weapons guy and the medic? And I just want to ask your kind of thoughts on this interesting pairing.
Oh my goodness. That started, I think, at the PAX West, the first Comic Con where we met Robin, and as he entered the ballroom, he just in his medic voice goes, "I love heavy," and so we kind of just sort of bonded over that, and we thought it was a bromance, but the memes started looking very sexual and very provocative. So we just kind of played along with that whole idea, and we're not giving it away. I know that the medic is gay, but Heavy is married. But we are toying with that to this very day. We have fun. So when fans ask me about it, I just reply, "It is complicated."
Best response. Best response. Well, that's just really the internet in a nutshell, really. That they'll look at any kind of, as you would put it, like a perceived bromance or kind of a crack pairing, and they'll always kind of look at it like, hey, do you
Yeah.
think they might like to when people aren't looking? That's just how the
Oh,
internet goes.
we leaned into it and we had fun with it for sure.
Another question I wanted to ask was, of course, we mentioned earlier about your experiences working with Shawk, especially on his TF2 related content. There was also, of course, the footage that he did of recording the TF2 voice cast playing the game themselves for the first time. Could you tell us more about how that went down for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I had never played the game. I tried at one point to play the game, but I could not get the hang of picking up the weapons and getting it to move around. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but when I watch kids, just their fingers fly over that keyboard and the mouse, it blows my mind. But that being said, they all filmed that Shork wanted to film us. This was in Boston at PAX East, all playing the game. And it was quite a trip. I was able to at least, when I ran out of bullets, I just started punching people. And it was fun just hearing the incidental sounds of my own voice as various characters and adding to my own experience as a player. It was very weird, very wild. I enjoyed it, but it kind of was like deja vu and trying to drive a car for the very first time. But I know Shork wants to try that again, so I need lessons in how to play the game. I want to acquit myself better than I did the last time.
Well, practice makes perfect. I mean, hopefully Shork might let you play the co-op mode where you're fighting against robotic versions of the Team Fortress 2 crew. That might make for an interesting twist.
That could be, yeah. I'm gonna have to hire some experienced player to kind of coach me through it. I'm sure I could find one.
Well, funny you should mention that. Looking at my hundreds upon hundreds of hours put in Team Fortress 2. I actually at the moment, I main heavy weapons guy, funnily. I jump around. I went from soldier to Demoman and then to heavy because I just realized, like, I love popping out bombs and, like, whacking people over the head with a bottle and charging at them like that. But sometimes I just like to stand still, go very slowly at a snail pace and just mow them down with a minigun. It's one of life's simple joys, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think when I first did the game, one of the directors or the writers, I think it was the writer, he just said, your character is going to be a real popular one because he's sort of entry level, because I guess I'm a big hammer, you can just go in blasting.
That's definitely a great way to put it. And as for the demo man, the great thing about Team Fortress 2 is that it's opened up so many kind of different ways to play with the addition of different weapons. Like, for example, a heavy weapons guy, you could basically play like a snail, slowly just charge and just mow them down. When compared to, let's say, the demo man, then you're given options to, for example, like the amount of things, like the amount of tricks people pull off, like going full melee mode only with just a sword and a shield. It's like kind of just bobbing into like crowds of people, chopping them down just seamlessly. I bet you, like, if you see that in real time, you'd just be like kind of struggling to keep yourself sitting upward because it's just really shocking stuff. They're so good at this.
Well, some of these people are amazing, but it's also they can also stop and do a little dance or something like that. Somebody said, TF2 is more like, a really fun chat room with guns.
Yeah. I think definitely the kind of the community, especially the community, has a great sense of humor. For example, one particular joke, aside from, of course, like doing the dancing taunts and getting everyone to join in, another kind of recurring joke I've noticed is the laughing taunt that people do. Like, they've done some funny stuff, like they run up to one of the cardboard cutouts of cows in one of the levels, and they play as Demoman, and one of the lines when he goes, "Move that gear up, lads!" And every time he goes, "moo," they instantly hit the laugh taunt. So that it looks like they're just going moo and laughing at the cow, just like, "moo! Oh, moo! Oh." And there's like crowds of people doing this.
That's funny. Oh my goodness.
They do the same with like saying things like "that spy's a bloody traitor." They kind of press the different combinations to say different lines, like "the engineer is at sentry." Whoa!
My goodness, you do a good demo.
Oh, thank you. Hey, if there's any other kind of Team Fortress 2 fans who needs a good demo voice, give us a shout. I can do heavy weapons, guy. Maybe not as good as you, but Yeah, you could tell I've been playing this game too much.
I'm happy you do. You're why I'm so thrilled with being in this position.
Wonderful to hear. You know, speaking of the quirky jokes and sense of humor of Team Fortress 2 fans, I mean, ever since Team Fortress 2 came out, it's been the subject of so many really creative and goofy internet memes and whatnot. Do you perhaps have any favorites of those, maybe?
I had no idea for the longest time what putis was. And so finally, I think I went to the TF2 wiki to discover that putis is put this somewhere, and it became putis. So I join in on that sometimes now, and so a lot of fans will ask me, could you write putis on my autograph? And so I do. But I had no idea for a while what that meant.
I think it's definitely one of those kind of like nonsensical, silly words that people just like to kind of um, shout,
Yeah,
um,
and it kind of
shout.
caught on, and I was kind of the last to know.
But hey, there you go. Yeah, the chopping down just the words of "Put Spencer here" and then "Put Like, oh,
Yeah,
man,
people
so
sample it, and
long.
then it becomes a meme. So that's been fun. I do like the Heavy is Dead, Putis, Cry Some More, Yatatatata, Yatatatata, Yatata. Yeah, those kind of things.
And song covers as well, like chopping up dialogue to make Heavy sing, like for example, "Let It Go" from Frozen.
Oh, no, somebody once put together Justin Bieber's Baby Baby using all my babies.
Let's move on, of course, from Team Fortress 2. Let's talk a bit about some of the books that you've written as well. I mean, you're a published author. Tell us more about your creations.
Well, I've had that idea for that book since I was about 11 years old. It's called The King of Average, and it came out of my childhood, which was not a particularly happy childhood. And like a lot of creative types, you spend a lot of time by yourself with parents who are less than ideal, and I suffered, I think, from kind of a lack of self-esteem and not feeling so particularly wanted. And I would hear this message in my head, how terrible I was. It's kind of that self-talk that I picked up from my mom. So I remember the day that I was walking home from school, and I was having a conversation with myself, saying, well, you're terrible. You're no good. That was what I used to hear that a lot. You're no good. And I would object to that. And I would say, that's not true. I'm good. Then my other voice would say, well, you're not great. And I'd have to agree. Yeah, well, I'm not great, but I'm not terrible. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm average. And I said, yeah, yeah, I'm not the best student in the world. I'm not the worst. I'm not the best. And I said, I'm not the worst or the best of anything. And then I said, yeah, that's probably true. There's somebody always worse than you, somebody always better than you. So I said, but what if I could be more average than anybody in the whole world? What if I was the most average person who ever lived? And that little paradox made me laugh. I said, well, if you were the most average, you wouldn't be average, would you? You'd be the best at something. So I thought that just kind of tickled me. And then at the time, I was reading a very popular children's story, a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. I don't know if you know it, but it's a children's classic from the 1960s. about a little boy who is bored with his life until a toll booth shows up and he takes a little drive into this fantasy world called the Lands Beyond, where the princesses Rhyme and Reason have been kidnapped from their respective kingdoms of Digitopolis and Dictatopolis, the kingdom of words and the kingdom of numbers. And it's filled with a lot of really silly puns and wordplay. And I've always loved that book, so that when I decided to come up with this story about who could the king of average be, I decided to write it as an homage to my favorite children's book, The Phantom Toll Booth. And that's exactly what I did. And I kind of wrote it also with the idea in mind that it could play on two levels. The adult level, which was the years of therapy that I had, understanding my background and my childhood, and overcoming those feelings of self-worth, self-doubt, that I'd play it for adults. I'd write it as much for adults as I did for children. And one of my favorite authors is Roald Dahl. So I kind of did a James and the Giant Peach adventure with the idea in mind that I would use a lot of wordplay and puns, and came up with this story, which is a veiled psychological examination of children who have to overcome low self-esteem. It turned out that I wrote the book and it was very well received. And I got a couple of awards for the book and very proud of it. And later I also did the audio book of it, which, has about 20 or 30 different characters in it. So that was also fun for me. So I used all of my skills summing up my life in this little book called The King of Average.
Note to self, buy a copy. I would really love to check this out.
And the ebook is only $3 or something.
Sold. Sold. I'm going to get myself a copy at this rate. I've got to check this out. So, actually, there's another question I'd like to pick your brains on right here, Gary. And this is, have there been any projects that you would love to work on? Or do you believe that you've pretty much done pretty much everything that you've wanted to do and more?
Well, I've done all that I set out to do, but I still love teaching improv. And I am actually working on a very strange project right now. This is in the very, very early stages. It's called Extreme Community Charades. And I don't know if you've ever played the game of charades, but it used to be a very popular parlor game. And it's very fun to play. And so what I want to do is I want to teach people. I was actually on a TV pilot called Pantomime Quiz back in the 1970s, late 70s, where we played charades as a game show. And I happened to be really good at it, so I was the only non-celebrity picked to be on the game show. So I'm a really good charades player. And so I want to teach people how to play charades, and then ask them to go to their neighbors and ask them to invite them over to their house to learn how to play charades. I'm going to actually teach a charades class in my local town, and I'm going to get some people who want to do this. They're going to tell their neighbors, come and learn charades. Let's play once a week as neighbors. We'll each, and you play face to face, not via computer. You have to be in the same room. And then as each neighborhood develops a charades team, I will do a public game show once a month in our local theater where the two neighborhoods would play charades for bragging rights to see who would win. And I think this would start to reconnect people to each other versus being so isolated and only communicating through a computer. You have to start with community and build community. So this is in essence using charades as a community building tool to sort of reconstruct community spirit. That's my next project.
It's definitely not the answer I was expecting, but it's a really amazing kind of answer to hear, to be able to kind of get something that will get everyone not only just involved in person-to-person sorts of interactions, but also just acting especially. I mean, charades is still a form of acting. It's very much like, physicality
It is,
especially.
but everybody can play charades. I've not yet met one person who cannot. And it's a healthy exercise in having fun, enjoying fellow people, playing for the fun of it, and building community. When you play together, a community forms. And if I can get that on a more than individual basis, I think I could change the character of a small town. And we need to get back to that one-on-one interaction, pleasant interaction where we enjoy each other rather than fear each other. And if it's successful, maybe I'll get some sociology student to chronicle it. I don't know, but anyway, that's my next big mountain to climb.
And I'm wishing you the best of luck with it all. I'm sure everyone who gets involved is going to have a heck of a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun. And if anybody wants to try charades, I'm more than willing to show them how it's done. And if they want to start it in their own communities and play against their neighbors, go for it. You'll find how much fun it is and how valuable the experience is.
Now, Gary, since we are coming to the end of this interview, I always like to ask this, recurring question of mine to everyone that I chat to. So, when you're not acting, when you're not writing, when you're not on stage, behind the mic, or doing charades, how do you like to relax and unwind?
Oh, I play with my dogs. I hang out with my wife. We watch TV. I've been living in the same house now for almost 28 years and love where I live. And that's basically it. Just enjoying the fruits of my career and my life. Trying to be grateful. And I love my dogs. They're so much fun.
Do you perhaps have any, let's say, favourite bands or artists you like to jam to, or maybe any favourite movies you like to watch every now and again?
I watch almost all the movies that I can. I'm a Screen Actors Guild member still, so I get to vote in the Screen Actors Guild Awards. So every year they send me all the latest films and TV shows to vote on in the various acting categories. So I get to consume a lot of media, and it's been a lot of fun. And then, of course, the other thing is I love interacting with the TF2 fans all around the world.
Gary, let me just say it's been an absolute blast getting you on board a second time for an interview, so thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, good luck to you, and may your radio station bloom and blossom.
Thank you very much. Now, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the many, many fans out there?
For limited time only, you can get Bullet with your name on it and my name on it from Streamily.com. Limited quantity, only 40 bullets. Ha ha! Full size from Sasha.
It's a bargain at any price, folks. Give that a try. And for anyone listening in, of course, thank you very much for checking out this amazing interview right here on the Cyberdan, and please consider donating to the cause for Witham Radio so we can get ourselves a radio studio and get ourselves on the airwaves, including the Cyberden, helping me, get back on the airwaves as well to present live radio shows with music, video game soundtracks, all the latest from the world of gaming, and more, just like back in the days on Siren Radio. So anyway, Gary, thank you very much for coming, and watch out for all those other pesky mercenaries out there.
Thank you, Jake. It's been a pleasure.
I am Heavy Weapons Guy, and you are listening to Jake on the Cyberden. If you don't, you are babies. Ha ha ha! Hey mates, I'm the Demoman from Team Fortress 2, and I say listen to Jake on the Cyberden. It's a blast! Ha ha ha! Get it? A blast! Ah!